All right, good afternoon, everybody. Before we get going today, I have a little statement that I wrote before coming here that I wish to share with you all. It reads, losing a police officer in the line of duty is a profound tragedy. The city of Syracuse and our neighbors throughout Onondaga County are reeling after last night's events. We are a city and a county in mourning. I wish comfort and solace to the family, friends, and loved ones of the officers who were lost last night. I'd also like to express my heartfelt gratitude to those members of the Syracuse Police Department and the Onondaga County Sheriff's Office who put their uniforms on today with heavy hearts to continue to protect and keep us safe. So please, keep everyone involved in the incident last night in your prayers. And with that, on the summer day, we are here for the budget hearing for Department of Treasury. I don't know what the title is.
City Payment Center.
City Payment Center. It said
Department of
Treasury formally. We are joined by Councilors Hogan, Nave, Paniagua, President Hudson, Councilor Monto, and would you folks mind introducing yourselves?
Yeah, Michael Canizero, Commissioner of Finance.
Anne Marie Deegan, First Deputy Commissioner of Finance.
Thank you very much. You want to start off with your little narrative and we can go from there?
Yeah, so, within the Department of Finance, you kind of have three bureaus. So that would be the City Payment Center, formerly the Treasury Department, the Bureau of Accounts, and then Financial Operations. So if you want to think about, accounts receivable and revenue, that's all the City Payment Center, kind of accounts payable, disbursements, that's more so Financial Operations. And then how we record all of those things, that's really the Bureau of Accounts. So, the City Payment Center is responsible for tax collections and really any type of accounts receivable we have. So, that can involve booting, water, parking tickets, a number of fine and forfeitures, and then a number of other miscellaneous revenue sources, set-outs, board-ups, clean-outs, pilot, shelter rent payments. So, we really focus on a couple revenue streams, sales tax and whatnot, because those are the larger ones, but, we have dozens of different revenue streams. So the City Payment Center, really flat as far as head count. I don't know if you have any questions on the activity indicators, but head count is staying flat, 20 individuals last year, 20 individuals this year, and then really the only change there is kind of the positions. The control clerk position in City Payment Center is a little bit more flexible. It's more of a broad job description. So you can see we're increasing that to 8, while reducing the information aide to 3, and then the supervisor of accounts receivable. We had two of those positions budgeted in fiscal year 24, and we only have one for fiscal year 24-25.
From year 24 to 25, and there's some of them, it's like you actually swapped out. Like that 0 this year, which was the 1 next year. Comes to like
Yeah, so for the kind of the Deputy Commissioner of Finance and Supervisor of AR, those are our new grades. So this is due to the compensation study. So you can see the Deputy Commissioner of Finance was a 19E last year, whereas now since we have that new kind of executive management grid, now it's a grade 90. So that's a 1-for-1 for Deputy Commissioner of Finance, Supervisor of AR. We're dropping 1. And then really the biggest change is those control clerks. And again, just as we're evaluating the processes in the departments, that allows us that, we have a lot of mail today. They go open up the mail. So they're broader job descriptions to allow us to give them additional, responsibilities, as opposed to the information aide, which was a fairly concrete, this is what you're supposed to do as an information aide, whereas control clerk's a little bit more broad.
Can you back up one more on page 100?
Yep.
Ellen, I'm glad you're back. I got tired doing all the talking.
I'm back. So what I'm trying to understand is on the accounts receivable, it was estimated this year at 1,800, and it's anticipated to be 6
I think that's primarily to McCann notices. I think we were, as far as like the land bank seizure process, we were in a holding pattern for a while with that. So now we kind of have a better process going forward. So I think we're expecting more mailings to go out.
I'm going for you in a minute, right now.
And then kind of moving on to page 102, as far as some of the GL accounts, the budgeted numbers. Really, headcount stayed flat. In fiscal year '23, we, in that 29,000 figure, we actually bought a coin counter. So a few years ago, all of our coins are being counted by Brinks at a fairly substantial cost of about $60,000 annually. So that's an operation we brought in-house, bought the coin counter. So now we're doing all of that ourselves. You won't see that savings reflected here because that was kind of being paid out a special object account, I think bank service charges. So that's a new process for CPC. And then the professional services line of 225,000. This has to deal with the booting, which right now, on average, it costs us about $161, to apply that boot to a car. We're only charging $50 to the constituent, so we're kind of subsidizing that charge. On average, it's about $111 paid by the city for that booting fee.
Okay, so why are we subsidizing?
I believe this went to council earlier in the year, and we were looking at putting it entirely on the constituent, and it wasn't passed. I would have to go back and kind of look at the letter in the ordinance, but we did bring this to council to try to charge the full amount.
There was a lot of confusion.
Yeah, 'cause I'm
The way
very
it was presented
confused.
to us and the way we took it in,
Okay.
I think that might be something that we should probably talk about in the
Okay.
future.
Yep.
So that $161, is there any way to get that number down? Is it like economies of scale might come into play? Is it hiring,
So my understanding, it's really the total amount of tickets that a person might have before it's, we put a boot on the car. So that 161 is an average amount. Could be a couple $100s, but really, we are subsidized. We're only charging them $50 no matter how many, tickets they have.
Well, I would suggest we work together and create some legislation where the council could go along with that, because we can't keep on doing that. And I just foresee in the future, I think with the advent of more people moving into the area, I think we got to address that.
Or something.
we're losing money on this operation?
Yes.
Yeah, so they're getting more from this towing and the booting than we're getting back in, oh my.
If you remember, we had some of our counselors were adamantly opposed to this, raising this fee.
I just think it needs to come back because that's.
I agree with that, yep.
There was significant opposition on the council.
Well,
from members.
it goes by the vote.
Not me.
It goes by the vote, majority wins, so no.
Commissioner, can you, I'm not sure that we're losing money on the overall operation, but we are
Incurring some costs.
incurring costs that subsidize the booting fee. So we're not bringing in as much as we could. We're paying more in expenses than should be.
We pay the booting fee to collect all those
That's,
back
that,
tickets, right?
that's exactly
So
right,
we're losing
Counselor.
money off the top of what we would be collecting.
That's exactly right.
Do we know what enforcement of the boots is, or how many are getting put onto vehicles in our city?
I would have to follow up with you on that specific number. But yeah, no, it's an outsourced service. I know we have, I think, one full-time working. We were looking at getting a second full-time. Yeah, I could get you those numbers.
And So, Frank, just be straight. So we are collecting revenue as a result of our booting operation.
Yes.
Correct? Yeah. And
And Corey, there's the people that are booted.
Yeah.
You know, they received many
Right, correct.
communications before it gets to that.
so presumably there are more vehicles that are eligible for a boot than we're able to boot or
That's
to
my
collect upon.
understanding, yes.
And so if we, increase this line, what do we need to do to get more enforcement or more people working? If this is an income generator, we need revenue.
And not to
Why
cut
aren't
you
we
off,
going-
Corey,
yeah.
because Frank, I don't think any of you were here, but when all of this started, this wasn't supposed to go on forever because they thought that they would be able to boot enough to bring it down the numbers, but apparently we're not.
The folks continue to ignore the citations, and so booting continues.
It's just like until people get their notice that they're seizing their house, they don't pay the taxes. It's the same thing.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And I'll tell you, the person that is doing this now, there's that one person, he's very active. I see him, like early in the morning, he's active, booting cars.
I believe we've seen some recent increases in activity.
In fact, I think he had one right down the street here from City Hall, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, I think our year
Just
over
the-
year, I think the most recent, it was up like 176%. So yeah, I know they changed the person that was responsible, kind of our contracted out booter, and we've seen a large uptick in bootings.
So what do we need to do to get more enforcement? How do we take it from the one FTE or the one full-time employee working to up that number?
We need to create legislation.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of, I think, circling back on that legislation to kind of reduce the professional services, and then I can have our Deputy Commissioner, Vicky, just reach out saying, well, we get 2 full-time equivalents. I know they were having difficulties hiring for a second person, but we can definitely revisit that.
Are there other services out there, or is there only one company that provides this service?
I'm not certain on that. I'll have to
Right,
back
we
to you.
need to circle back and see if there's anybody else out there now.
There are municipalities that
We were having the conversation,
create
there was
higher
only
ticket
one
costs for
local.
non-city residents too. Have we thought about doing that?
I'd be delighted to do that. There's no question that there are a variety of ways that we could approach this. And some of it is the way we boot and some of the parameters we put around booting. So I think we should probably look at all of that and bring it back to you to review. The Deputy Commissioner has made some suggestions to us about changes that we could make, and we'll review those with her and bring them all back to you to take a look at. But we definitely feel that, you seem to be agreeing that there's some ways we can enhance this program.
Well, I mean, I'm thinking of that because I recently got a call about a 2024 Mercedes blocking a driveway up in the university area that was registered in New York City to a student. So
Yeah, there's no question. New York City, when we did amnesty a few years ago, we found many of the largest balances outstanding were folks that were living outside the city, who'd been here when they were students and then left, or a variety of other things. So
Those are the ones with the biggest mouths, but anyway.
Council. So first of all, that, just so everybody understands, the boot person is not a city employee, is contracted. And I believe we have, Leah's here, she can tell. At one point, I think we had over 50,000 plate eligibles for booting. Over 50,000 boot eligible plates.
I do not know the number off the top of my head, but I know it was in your,
It was in our audit, when we left,
Yeah.
when I left the audit, it was 57,000 vehicle, plates that were boot eligible. And there's one contracted person doing the booting. And there's millions of dollars owed to the city.
but you got to find them. I mean, to Nader's point, there are many available or eligible. You got to find them, and there are some parameters that I would consider to be somewhat artificial that we put around where we'll boot, when we boot. who will boot. And so I think all of that is fair game for
We can't
review.
boot on private property. They have to be on public property when we boot them, right?
Yeah, there's a variety of parameters, yep.
Well, Frank, let me ask you a question. I may be off base here, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So when we know that we have all of these people that are boot eligible, and let's just say for argument's sake, they live in New York City, we can't put a lien on them to collect our money?
There are some things that we can do that we've chosen not to do through the Department of Motor Vehicles, and most municipalities have stayed away from it based on it being somewhat of a burden on folks. So you can do suspensions of registrations and
So let me ask you this. I understand the burden. So can we get a amount of what is owed? Let's just say New York City for argument's sake. So if it's millions, you would think it would be a burden to go after that money?
no, the problem is we can't be selective. So we can't just say we're going to use the Department of Motor Vehicles recourse for folks that are not city residents. We would have to go, it's one way or the other. So it's either all in or not all in. So our residents would also be impacted. So that's why this administration, as well as previous administrations, have chosen not to do that. But maybe it's time to take another look at that.
And look at the dollar amount.
No question. No question.
Frank, could you give us an estimate, or maybe Commissioner, how much we're losing every year? Those who are ticketed, who live out of state, who we think getting booed, how much money are we losing? Revenue? Can you give an estimate?
Just of uncollected?
Uncollected, mm-hmm. I'm out of state.
Yeah, I'm really not sure.
So we got to find a way to somehow, we're losing that revenue, so we got to find how to gain it back. So maybe we have to enforce the boot law, including those who do not live in our community, live out of state, and somehow we have to find a way to enforce it, because we're losing money, because the money that we're spending for an independent to boot these vehicles, what do we got? We have to look at that lost revenue.
Well, if I remember correctly, I think we did it in the beginning, didn't we, Nader?
We did what?
Did booting. It was us. The
Yes, it
City
used to be
Department of
used
Public
to be
Works did it, yeah.
We used to do it, the police department, but then they wanted overtime dollars for it. So that's why we
went through
contracted.
a whole, this is like a convoluted, long, tragic,
Right.
where we are now.
That's
Ended
why
up
we
where
went with
are now.
Paylock. And then Paylock used to have a couple of vehicles, and they had 2 or maybe some 1.3 employees. Now they have 1 and 1 vehicle, to the best of my knowledge.
And at the end, I think there was a concern among some of the counselors was that this was going to unfairly burden some of our least,
There's millions of dollars owed to the city.
oh, I'm not arguing. I'm
Oh.
just saying how this went, when it came before the council, is that there was some concern about
Right.
the people that least can afford it are the people that are going to be burdened by this thing, so.
Well,
But if you
there are
follow the
parking
traffic
laws,
rules-
and it tells you every day, do not park here.
I agree totally. I was on the other side of that argument. That
Seems like
it didn't win.
a topic
Maybe it'll
to
win this time
revisit.
because everybody's so enthusiastic about doing this. So we'll have to look at it again.
So, one more quick question, because I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at the parking ticket fines. So the fines actually add up a lot bigger than what the ticket is, because I'm right.
Yes.
So let me ask, I'm full of questions. I've been gone for a minute. I just got to talk. So have we thought about maybe, Frank, sending out correspondence to all of these folks, giving them amnesty to a degree, cutting the fines in half? Just some ideas, because we need to get this money.
Yeah. So, to Nader's point, there's a significant amount of dollars in the millions that's being carried. It's not really on our books, but it's being carried, but that we would deem relatively uncollectible. So much of it is very old. We tried to do something along the lines of what you described, President Hudson, during the course of an amnesty a few years ago. We did collect, I don't know, just over $1 million, as I recall, with a considerable amount of work and effort on some of these older dollars. But most of it is, we then sent it out to a third-party collector to see if they could get any of it. So in my former business, we would deem this uncollectible and we would have written it off. In fact,
And I get you, but as a city, we can't keep deeming it as uncollectible.
I appreciate that, but some of this goes back
I know,
to,
I know.
2 decades.
Well,
So-
let's just set a time frame.
Yep.
We don't go back 2 decades, we go back a decade.
I don't disagree with you. It's a question of how much effort is going to provide any kind of a return. Most of the folks who didn't pay during amnesty are not going to pay now. When we said previously, we'll give you a bit of a discount, a significant discount, they didn't take advantage of it the first time, and that was not without cost and not without effort. So there was I think we actually lost a deputy commissioner largely over amnesty. Martha Maywalt, I don't think she was willing to even consider going through another one. It was a
Let's
lot
do a
of
swap.
work.
NYPD help us, we help them, because we got
Yeah.
some of their people down here too.
Yeah. So I think there are some things with our current practices and our more recent fines and dollar amounts, maybe within the last 5 years that we could do and be more aggressive about, and we'll bring those ideas to you.
Is this staff time or the subcontracted services?
Staff time.
Staff time. Amnesty was all staff time. We ran that program ourselves. Yeah. And it was,
Sure, it's
you know,
happening all over the
State right
state.
here, yeah.
And we have state officials that I'm sure is happening in their parts
no
of the country,
question.
world too.
Yeah. This isn't just a Syracuse problem, no question.
Okay, I'm done.
To be continued.
Yeah.
$4 million in fines, $6 million.
Yeah, so I just wanted to kind of highlight some of the position changes and then just some of the more notable numbers in the budget. But were there any other questions on the City Payment Center?
Everyone good on Treasury?
We can go in the next,
Yep.
can we?
Financial operations is next. I don't know if we want to roll right over or if we have to.
Do we need to wait?
Okay. So in terms of the first meeting, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Anyone second?
Other meeting at a certain time, or it's right, it's go right with it? It is?
Yes.
Oh, we gotta wait till that time.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's 12
So we need to wait.
Bureau of Financial Operations,
Yeah,
Yep.
what time do that start?
12:45.
All right, we'll see everyone back here in 20 minutes.
Okay, that means I can keep that.